Well, the season is over, and the less said, the better when it comes to the bottom end of the championship table. But we're going to focus on the top today as we return to look ahead to the first leg of the playoff semi-finals in a 24-25 EFL Championship season. Two games featuring four sides, but can the sides that finish lower in the table make their first leg home advantage count and get themselves a lead going into the second games early next week? We're going to find out by previewing both games, predicting the score, and of course, as always, we'll encourage you to do exactly the same in the comments below. Beat or match my overall score with your predictions in the comments for Thursday and Friday's games. And if you do beat it, when we return on Saturday to look ahead to the second legs, you'll get a shout out in the next recap. With that in mind, though, before we go and look ahead to the semi-finals, let's reluctantly have a quick recap of Matchweek 46, where I predicted with heart over head in a couple of scenarios, particularly when it came to the relegation zone, and it didn't work out, did it? I will not be an expert in championship predictions next year because, much like last season, my team won't be in it, but for very different reasons this time. Luton Town relegated to League One, and deservedly so, with a pathetic defensive display. Overall, I only picked up 5 points, a perfect score for Watford Sheffield Wednesday, the Championship's favourite scoreline, and victories late on for Leeds and for Norwich City at home with 2 further points. 5 overall for me, not a great effort, but that's because I went with my heart when it came to a few of the relegation deciders. In the comments though, many of you did a little bit better, though it was a fairly low scoring week overall. So me and Nigel were level on 5 points, one above us on 6, Sam, Bobby and Mike. On 7, we've got Peter and Tony. On 8, we've got regular player Marco. Gordon with a very solid effort in 3rd place on 9 points. And only 2 of you made double figures this time. Chris on 10, the Championship's favourite scoreline producing, went for draws galore. It was a good effort from you. 10 points in 2nd place, but 3 behind the superstar of the weekend. Etienne back in form with 13 and 3 perfect scores from the first 4 matches. An exceptional effort in a very hard week to call. So Etienne is our match week 46 winner. But how will you get on with the first leg of the playoff semi-finals? Because we start on Thursday night with Bristol City versus Sheffield United. And how costly will Bristol City's defensive effort against Preston be? And in fact, how costly will their last week be? Because despite coming back from 2-0 down against Preston to draw, they do drop to 6th place because of Coventry's win. And that means that they now face Sheffield United, who finished the season in 3rd place with 22 more points than them, rather than facing one of the most out-of-form teams in the division in Sunderland. Is that going to be costly when it comes to this semi-final? You would argue of the 4 teams in the playoff, Sheffield United are the most prepared. They've been in a title race most of the season, but have also had the little luxury of being able to rest people for the last couple of games. And you look at their season overall, they've been fantastic with just 36 conceded, one of the best defensive teams in the division and by far the best in this playoff race. For Bristol City, on the other hand, 55 conceded. There's just a big difference on that front. There's not actually much between them in the goals scored column, with Sheffield United finishing the season with a 1-1 draw against Blackburn. Not the greatest of performances, and of course, didn't keep that momentum quite as they'd like in terms of results, but it was one of their better performances from recent weeks. They did dominate the game for the most part. They were able to give a couple of players a little bit of a rest and of course get some minutes into others off the bench too. So an important day for them, and the fact that they've come in decent form after that little wobble they had to lose the title race. They've then come back and picked up 7 points in their last 4, which with only a defeat away at Burnley is not a bad effort at all. On the flip side of that, Bristol City, as we mentioned, 2-0 down to Preston before McCrory became the hero and scored 2. In the end, it didn't really matter. They would have been in 6th place with a defeat. Again, just not creating those brilliant chances in front of goals. We have seen it with Bristol City. When they've had the onus to dominate a game, to dominate possession, as Preston made them do, they found it a little bit trickier. Now, for Sheffield United away from home, it'll be interesting to see how they go for it here. Will they try and be the more aggressive team, knowing that they finished with 22 more points and got a better defensive record? Or will they try and get Bristol City to come onto them and play on the counter, where Bristol City have been weaker this season when it comes defensively? We know that Bristol City, if they've got something to cling on to, will be able to sit behind the ball and be fairly robust away from home. I know they're letting goals galore against Leeds and Luton, but the Luton game was a little bit of complacency trying to be aggressive. And they've not kept a clean sheet in 10, but Liam Mann inside when it matters away at the top teams have often been able to produce gutsy displays. They have got a goal threat, but Sheffield United are a rock-solid side. Away from home, though, they've had their troubles this season as well. We saw the defeat at Plymouth that basically cost them their last push for promotion. We saw the defeat at Burnley where they were decent but couldn't find a way. This is a really hard game to call for me. I still feel Sheffield United over the two legs have got enough, but I don't feel they can be behind going into the second leg. So based on that and the fact that we saw a few of them at the weekend, I think I'm going to stick on the fence for this first one. And on Thursday night at Ashton Gate, I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline at Sheffield United to get a 1-1 draw on the road and probably put them in pole position for the return leg on Monday. We'll find out if that's right in a few days' time. Because for now, we've got to move on to the second playoff game. Ironically, the last game I watched before COVID lockdown in 2020, and it was a League One game being played at St Andrews, which probably tells you how far these two sides have come. Coventry City start their second playoff campaign in 3 years, as does Sunderland, who face each other on Friday night. Both of them thwarted by Luton Town 2 years ago. They've not got to worry about them now, just each other. Coventry City came into the playoffs in style with a 2-0 victory against Middlesbrough. Of course, had the early red card the game before against Luton. Of course, were poor at Plymouth the week before that. But their home form since Frank Lampard has taken over, and to be honest, for the last 3 years in the Championship has been remarkable. We know Coventry are normally strong finishers. They did it when they flew into the playoffs in 22-23. They were flying last year in the second half and were probably only thwarted by that FA Cup run and that crazy game against United. And in this year, they finished in style as well. Jack Redoni really starting to show up now. 2 goals against Borough. Really good performance. And while it was a pretty even game, Coventry had the best of the chances and they made them count. They're starting to show a ruthless streak. And as we go through these playoffs teams, Coventry are actually the top scorers of the 4 in the Championship this year. 64 goals in 46 games. They have also got the worst defensive record, which is something they've got to be alarmed about. But they're coming in to face Sunderland, who are on the back of a terrible run of form. 5 defeats in a row. It started as a little rotation policy to try and prepare for the playoffs, but they've lost all momentum, and even when they've started to bring their first teamers back, it's just not worked out. They've scored 1 goal in their last 6 matches, which was away at Bristol City. Might come in handy, depending on who gets to the final. But at home to QPR, away to Oxford, are just awful performances. Really, really poor. And against QPR, I know they gave up an early goal, and otherwise they didn't have much against their own goal, maybe only one other good chance. But despite dominating the ball, they didn't create anything clear-cut. Again, it was a succession of corners, a few long-range efforts. There was nothing spectacular. They weren't carving teams open. And it's becoming a real concern for Sunderland. We talked about the lack of a real goal threat earlier in the season. Isidore's a potentially good player, but he's not a consistent centre-forward yet. And those wide players have just dropped off the boil. The momentum has gone. And unlike the last game we looked at, we've probably got to factor in the head-to-head record here as well. While it was very similar for Sheffield United and Bristol City this year, for Coventry and Sunderland, it's a little bit different because you go back to mid-March and probably the start of Sunderland's poor run was Coventry beating them 3-0 at the CBS Stadium. So given the fact they got a draw away from home as well, Coventry will be very confident if they can win the home leg. Given their home form, given Sunderland's struggles at times on the road, you would fancy the home side to win this. Sunderland do have a threat on the break against defences that can be exposed. And we saw for Coventry against Luton, against Plymouth, that can be done. It's whether or not Sunderland can find their feet in front of goal. And I just think the decision to go in without momentum, to rotate that team a few weeks ago, I feel it's going to backfire. Sunderland are a very good side. They've overachieved this season. Lots of people at the mid-table or below, including me. But Coventry City, we had to be in that playoff race. We had them just to miss out, I think, unfortunately. But they've made it in. They're in form. They're good at home. The key is whether they can keep a clean sheet. I'm tied between 2-0 to Coventry and 2-1 to Coventry. If it's 2-1, I think Sunderland may still just be favourites going into the second leg. If it's 2-0, I think it's probably job done because I wouldn't see Coventry losing by more than 1. And I wouldn't see Sunderland scoring goals galore in a second leg. My heart's probably telling me I think this will be 2-1 to Coventry, but I went with heart over head at the weekend and it didn't work out. So I'm going to go with my head. I'm going to go with the statistics. And I'm going to go for Coventry to win their 3rd successive home game 2-0. They've kept clean sheets in all of their last 3 at home. They're a different proposition when they're playing in Coventry. So let's go for them to get the victory here. 2-0 and Sunderland's wretched form in front of goal and generally to continue on Friday night. So with that out of the way, let's have a quick recap of what we've gone for in the playoff semi-final first legs. I've gone for Bristol City and Sheffield United to play out the same score as they did in one of their 2 games this season, a 1-1 draw at Ashton Gate, which will probably put Sheffield United in pole position. And then Coventry City to keep that crucial clean sheet and pick up another 2-0 home win to put themselves in a very strong position when they head up to the Stadium of Light next Tuesday. Those are just my predictions for the playoff semi-finals though. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Give us your predictions for the first leg down in the comments below. And if you beat or match my overall score, you'll get a shout out when we return on Saturday to look ahead to the second leg of both of these fixtures. And a quick caveat to say as well that those will be recorded in the same setting we were at Christmas. So there'll be a bit less in the background there. But in the meantime, we have got 2 more videos to come this week. We will be back tomorrow and on Thursday to look ahead to the League 1 and the League 2 playoff semi-finals. We're not going to do in-depth videos for both legs of those leagues, but we will do a playoff semi-final preview. So we'll be looking ahead to both legs of the League 1 playoffs in tomorrow's episode and then League 2 the day after. I hope you'll come and join us for those and get involved in the predictions as well. Loads of playoffs to come this month, including the National League, which we'll be looking at as well. And I'm at non-league finals day on Sunday, so keep your eyes peeled for clips from that. For now, thank you very much for watching and being involved as we return for the playoff semi-final second legs on Saturday. Which of these 4 teams will have one foot on the coach to head to Wembley?